today, just in case you didn't know, is National Numeracy Day, a day where we're encouraged to talk about numbers and arithmetic and recognise the fact that, if we're really honest, many of us struggle with everyday maths. In fact, the charity National Numeracy estimates around half of Britons have the math skills of a primary school child. I'll be honest with you, that whole period of home schooling, that definitely showed up my lack of maths knowledge. I think the thing is as well, this is my excuse, they do it very differently nowadays from how we did it. You know, the working out. So I had to have a little crash course in what they call bus stop division. Paul Milner joins me from the charity National Numeracy, along with Peter Cherry from Brighton, who is a Doctor of Literature at the University of West London. Peter, you actually suffer, don't you, with dyscalculia? Have I said that right? It's a bit like dyslexia for numbers. Would you put it that way?
That's right. Yeah. So my first point actually is dyscalculia, pronounced to rhyme with Julia.
Okay.
And it's a maths learning difficulty, and although it differs from person to person, typical difficulties can include difficulty reading clocks, memorizing numbers. I mean, mental arithmetic is very difficult for dyscalculics. There's difficulty forming relationships between numbers and values. Budgeting is a really big problem. And based on your discussion this morning as well about work and employment, dyscalculics are also disproportionately affected by this as well, because many, such as myself, I have a PhD, but I've never been able to pass my GCSE maths. Right. And that has been a real problem for me in terms of employment. So it is a really big issue, really, yeah.
When did you first realise? I mean, when did you get the diagnosis?
Well, I was a child, and I think for me it was quite obvious because I was very strong in literacy, but my maths abilities, I was much, much weaker, and I really struggled. And so I think they sort of realised, well, something must be up here. And my dad is actually a real maths whiz. It's nice that you played Tina Turner before, because that always reminds me of my dad, because he's a big Tina Turner fan. But my dad is a real maths whiz, and a lot of people in my family are. So it was a bit like, what's going on here? And and I got diagnosed with dyscalculia. And I do think, it's interesting to talk about it's kind of number dyslexia, which it kind of is in a way. But there's also some crucial differences here. So dyscalculia is about 10 years behind dyslexia in research and awareness, which is why it's great to be on today talking about it. And also a recent article that came out in the iPaper, but also with the Conversation website, stated that a child with dyslexia is about 100 times more likely to be diagnosed and receive educational support than a child with dyslexia. So it's really very important that we raise awareness of this issue.
Yeah, because you just wonder, don't you, how many children and adults are out there who do have this condition and yet have no idea.
Totally. And I would say here as well, if you're worried that this might affect you or affect your child, definitely go to the Dyscalculia Network even. See, I'm even making that mistake. The Dyscalculia Network, which is a fantastic organisation set up by two maths teachers and maths learning difficulty specialists, Kat Edel and Rob Jennings, and they're really doing a fantastic job at putting people in touch with tutors who are trained to deal with dyscalculia, and also hopefully providing support for adults. We've got lots of exciting plans coming up to help adults with dyscalculia, but also maths anxieties, and also to help maths teachers as well, because you will have dyscalculic students in your classroom.
Yeah, important that you can spot them. Peter, thank you so much for sharing your story. Listening to that was Paul Milner, Programmes Director at the charity National Numeracy. I was saying earlier, Paul, it's a funny thing, isn't it? Claiming to be bad at maths is something of a sort of national hobby in this country. You know, we'll sort of say, oh yeah, no, I'm terrible at maths. In a way, we wouldn't say, oh, I'm terrible at reading or writing.
I think that's right, Alison. I think it's acceptable to say and almost boast about the fact that you're bad at maths in a way you wouldn't do if you struggled with reading or writing. I think this is something to do with people equate the word maths with algebra and trigonometry and things they did at school, which they probably actually haven't used since school.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here, and actually why we use the word numeracy, is everyday maths. It's the stuff that you do need if you're at work, or if you're trying to get work, or if you're trying to manage your money, or you're trying to support your children, as you mentioned earlier. It's the maths that comes up in daily life, and that's what we're talking about here. And as you say, in terms of being able to apply that in daily life, about half of adults do struggle with that and have sort of primary school levels of functional numeracy in the UK. And about a third of people are really not confident with numbers, but we don't talk about it very much, which is the point of National Numeracy Day, actually, to try and get the conversation going and raise awareness. Which is why, as part of today, we've got something called the Big Number Natter going on, where we're trying to get as many people as possible, and you're helping with this, talking about numeracy and the value of numeracy in daily life.
You've also got a little sort of test thing, haven't you, up on your website, a sort of new interactive website where you can sort of assess your own math skills and hopefully improve them. We've been trying out some of the sample questions this morning with limited success. I'm not going to lie. It's definitely a work in progress. If people want to take a look at that, how can they do that?
Yeah, if you just go to the National Numeracy website, then you'll find it there. It's called the National Numeracy Challenge. You can check your everyday math skills. It takes about 10 minutes. It's free to use. It's for adults. It's not scary. It's not school maths. It's the stuff you meet in daily life around money and scheduling. And all the other information about National Numeracy Day is on that website as well.
Yeah, so look, I'll give you an example question. I won't